rolling. Emily, I would love to know about that first conversation when they
Yes.
said Mary Poppins to you.
Shocked silence on the receiving end from me. Rob was he makes everything feel so special for you. So even the phone call offering me the role had a sense of ceremony to it. And I know him very well. We've known each other a long time, but it did have a different energy to it, this phone call. So I knew something pretty major was probably coming. And when he said it's Mary Poppins, I feel like the air changed in the room, because you are just instantly bombarded by these thoughts of just how iconic she is and what she's meant to me, to everybody, and the searing imprint she's had on people's lives, really. And often the first film that people saw is Mary Poppins. So, you know, a mix of sort of thrill and some trepidations taking on, like, how do I carve out new space for myself? How do I take a big swing and do my own version of her, you know? So it was sort of I was bombarded by thoughts of excitement and fear, probably.
I would imagine the fact that it was a sequel of sorts
Yeah.
rather than a remake.
Hugely.
You probably, nobody would have wanted to see a remake of a classic like
Well,
that.
no, and like, why would you? And you shouldn't. That should just be treasured and left just as it is. But yet there were 7 books written, and so there's room for more magic, there's room for more adventure. And this is the next chapter. So I don't think anyone's going to, I mean, I would never want to do some bad impersonation of Julie Andrews, who, you know, is like a national treasure for everybody. And so, yeah, this was a more exciting prospect. Still with enormous pressure on, not just me, it's everyone. I mean, Rob Marshall, production design, costume, everything. They were dealing with some big iconic boulders to kind of move aside to create something new and yet pay homage. So it's just a very fine line, and you just need someone like Rob Marshall, who is just so protective and loving of the original, and yet brave. You know, very brave to take this on, and classy and elegant. It's this meticulous approach to making this film. He cared so deeply, and I think you feel those fingerprints all over it.
Have you had any kind of conversation with Dame Julie?
I have not, but I met her years ago, and then Rob is quite close with her, and when he said that I was going to play the part, she was very supportive of it, but I haven't spoken to her directly.
I've got this idea, and I wish it would happen so much. I hope you do too. They have not announced the Cecil B. DeMille Award recipient yet for the Golden Globes. What better perfect year to select her, and all of you would hopefully be there. And
that's such a good idea.
Well, maybe they'll see this.
They should. Do it. Yeah.
Rob Marshall being involved had to also make it palatable. If some other director had called, it might have been more of a challenge in your mind of whether you wanted to do it.
True, that you're so right, and I think my own prior experience of working with him, my friendship with him, was enormously comforting, because I know Rob knows how to dig for the gold. I mean, he just knows how to do it, and we really get each other. We collaborate well, we work really well together. I knew I'd be protected. I knew this wouldn't be the sort of 2018 version of Mary Poppins. This could still be a classic, which is what we all wanted.
What moment along the way, either prep time or on set, that you really feel like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing here?
Oh God, I mean, I had a couple of aha moments in prep, just by myself actually. I remember John was doing a play, and so I had the house completely to myself at night, and I would just sort of wander around and try stuff out. And this was months before we even started rehearsing. And then, so when I started rehearsing, I did have a good take on her, I think, or an idea of what I wanted to do. And we rehearsed for 9 weeks, and so the characters, the songs, the scenes were so in our bones by that point. That even day one of shooting, I don't think I've ever felt so prepared going into a film, because normally it's so fly by the seat of your pants and you've got no rehearsal and you're just flung in at the deep end. day one, you know, barely knowing your co-stars, barely knowing what the material is, knowing there's work to be done on the script, you're kind of rewriting on the day, and there was none of that. It was just all about the details and the colors. But admittedly, it's like first few days of shooting, I still, things are feeling a little bit sticky. I feel like I haven't quite fallen into it. I think it takes me a couple of days to really feel like, all right, got it together, you know.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda,
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd seen him on Broadway.
Oh,
and
like 4 times, like a fangirl, completely obsessed with Hamilton. I mean, I'm so obsessed with Hamilton, and he knew that, and actually over the course of me seeing it several times, you know, when I first met him, I don't think either of us had been approached about Mary Poppins. Second time, I think I had been cast. Third time I went to see him, he had just been cast, and so it was just this wonderful secret that we sort of had for a while. And he's such a genius and such a wonderful, optimistic, cool guy, you know. He has that natural exuberance and warmth that was so necessary for the character of Jack, who truly just walks into every day with great hope, you know.
So he even surpassed what you were expecting from him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he had a blast doing it. I think it was a relief for him not to be everything to everyone suddenly, you know. I think it had been a really surreal year for him. And so to just transplant his family to the UK and get to be in this extraordinary world for a while, I think it was pretty cool.
One of my all-time favorite performers, well, you got 2 or 3 of them in this movie, but Dick Van Dyke.
I know.
When we were in our audience screening, you and Rob appeared right after that. He gets the most massive amount of applause just appearing on screen.
Oh, yeah.
And then to see him dance in his 90s.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, that was a really moving day for everyone. I think people just couldn't stop crying because he's also so full of life. Like, he's so youthful. He almost had to play older, like, in the character because he's so sharp and with it. And I mean, Lynn and I were there to sort of assist him onto the desk that he then tap dances on at 92, and he sort of waved us away, you know, like he didn't need it. That was a deep lunge to get up on that. I'm telling you, it was like, seriously, I mean, I would find it hard to get up there. And he started dancing, and the crew went crazy. I mean, people applauded him all day. And for Rob Marshall, who was so affected by Dick Van Dyke growing up, and he was such a hero for Rob, when Dick does this beautiful monologue, I mean, Rob couldn't even speak. He couldn't even say cut. He was crying. It was so once-in-a-lifetime moment working with him.
And you get to work with Meryl Streep again.
Yeah.
Well, I remember you being part of her Kennedy Center honors.
Yes.
So you're not just a coworker of hers, but a big fan of hers
Big
as well.
fan.
She's not really done anything like this particular scene that she has.
I know, she's so
I can
wild
recall.
in it. She's so brilliant. And, you know, that is actually her swinging around the chandelier like a lunatic. Like, I was like, oh my God, Meryl. She's just so awesome. And I think she had a really good time on it and definitely signed on in the same way that all of us wanted to sign on, that during this time where things might feel fragile for a lot of people, to make a film like this, you know, took on a new poignancy. And she was like, this film needs to be out there in the world right now, this film about hope and healing. And that was her feeling going in, and then she got to play this absolutely bonkers character. She's the coolest.
We're an awards website, so I want to ask you a couple of questions along those lines. I think your career really took a huge jump winning your first Golden Globe. That's 12 ceremonies ago.
Was it really?
Yeah, we were looking up the date earlier.
Yikes.
It was the 2007 ceremony,
Oh my
so
gosh.
almost 12 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
What did that mean for you and your career?
Well, to be honest, it was such early days for me in my career as well. So to get 2 nominations at the Golden Globes that year, and then I won one, I was like, what is happening? I mean, it was just so surreal. And I think all of it was so new to me, and so I knew it was a really big deal, but I think it was probably a bit of a blur, the whole thing. And I think that did change. I mean, certainly The Devil Wears Prada did change a lot for me, because I was seen as a character actress then, as someone who could do not just one thing, you know. And that was all I've ever wanted, was to not be pigeonholed as one thing. And so if you're in a film that everyone loves and everyone sees, and then there's success and there's awards for it, it's just it will certainly shapeshift your career really quickly.
Was that your first big award show to attend?
Yeah.
And you get all of the big TV and film stars in one room.
Yeah, it was crazy. I met a lot of them that night, you know. It was all so new to me. All of it was so new. I still get, rather overwhelmed at those shows. You know, it's still, it can still be overwhelming.
And we could see you there for Mary Poppins and A Quiet Place. I wanted to bring that movie up just for a moment.
Yes.
Of course, with John, your husband.
Yeah.
Just give us, now that that's been out in the world for several months,
Sure.
What's your big takeaway from doing that movie? What do you hear from people?
That it's people's favorite movie of the year. That's what I hear so much, is people say it was my favorite film of the year. I've seen it 3 times. I think that this sort of stratospheric life that it took on was so unexpected, so it's so rewarding for John and I, obviously massively for John, because it's so his baby. I mean, he page 1 rewrite of the screenplay, directed, produced, is in it. It's me and him together. I mean, it's so personal to both of us, and especially to him, and I think that people feel that. So I get people are very moved by it and surprised by it. People who hate horror love the movie, and I hate horror movies, and I love this film. And I think to do something that's original and for it to do as well as it did, and the word of mouth spreading like quickfire, I think it was just the most rewarding thing, you know. And people talk about specific scenes, you know, that they are horrified by, like the bathtub scene. People talk to me about the bathtub scene a lot, and the nail scene. Those are the 2 ones that people are like, oh my God, the nail scene, you know.
Well, there's at least 2 or 3 movies every year. One thing I love about what I'm about to say, they come so unexpectedly out of nowhere that they do captivate people. I'm thinking the previous year maybe of Get Out.
Sure.
Where not because of their similar horror movie vein, but just you go into a movie and you don't necessarily have any expectations.
Sure.
And then you get blown away.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of movies that you love forever.
Oh, yeah. And I think that has been just such a joy for he and I, that there was no strategy when he made this film. He made a art movie, really, and we shot it in 6.5 weeks. I mean, I feel like John made this movie with a gun to his head under the time constraints and the budget, and we didn't know. We had no idea. And I remember going to that South by Southwest screening, and nobody had seen the film. I mean, I'd seen it, the producers, and that's about it. And we went to that South by screening, and it was like being at a Beatles concert. It was just madness. I mean, the response to it was so insane. And we knew after that, and the word of mouth started to spread, and that's when you know, the benefits of social media, which I'm such a dinosaur about, but the benefits of it, you know, you really see it when you have a movie like that screens at South by.
Well, nobody's had a bigger year than you and a better year than you. So congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck on Mary Poppins.
Thank you very much. Thank you.